The sky over the frontier colony was always the color of old metal. Dust clouds drifted slowly, and the light from the distant star felt weak, like it was tired of shining on this place. The colony sat on cracked land at the edge of known space, far from rich worlds and powerful cities. Humans lived here because no one else wanted to. Elias Ward stood near the broken landing field when the transport came down. The ship did not land. It fell. There was no warning siren, only a loud scream of tearing metal. The transport hit the ground outside the colony wall and exploded into fire and smoke. People ran. Some shouted names. Others froze in fear. Elias dropped his tools and ran toward the wreck, even though the heat burned his face. He had done this before. Inside the twisted remains, alarms still blinked. The air smelled of fuel and death. Elias moved carefully, calling out, listening for any sound that was not fire. He found bodies first. Too many. Then he heard a cough. A small hand pushed through the smoke. Elias pulled a girl from under a bent support beam. She was thin, dirty, and shaking, but alive. Her eyes were wide, full of terror and anger. She screamed and tried to hit him. He held her gently and carried her away before the fire spread. Her name was Lena. By the next morning, it was clear she was the only survivor. Her parents and everyone she knew had died on that transport. The colony officials asked questions, filled out forms, and then looked away. Orphans were common on the edge. Resources were not.
Elias signed the papers. He did not ask permission.
That was how it began. Life with Elias was hard. The small home he lived in was built from old panels and spare parts. The power failed often. Food was simple and sometimes not enough. Elias worked long hours as an engineer and salvage worker, fixing alien machines that humans were not allowed to fully understand. Lena grew up watching him come home tired and quiet. He taught her how to clean tools, how to count parts, how to stay silent when alien overseers passed by. They were tall, cold-eyed beings who ruled the colony with rules that changed whenever it suited them. Humans were cheap workers to them, nothing more. Lena hated that life. She hated the dust, the hunger, the way others looked down on them. Most of all, she hated Elias. When she was small, she clung to him at night. When she grew older, she pulled away. She asked about her real parents. Elias told her the truth, slowly and gently. He said he was sorry. He said he would stay. That was not enough. At school, other children whispered. Some said Elias took her for labor credits. Others said he was hiding something. Lena came home angry many days, throwing her bag to the floor.
"You are not my father," she said, more than once. Each time, Elias nodded and said nothing.
What Lena did not know was that Elias was not just a broken man fixing broken machines. Far below the colony, under layers of stone and metal, something old was waiting. Elias knew because he felt it. Years ago, before Lena arrived in his life, he had found it during a deep repair job, a chamber sealed by time, untouched by alien scans. At its center was a smooth structure that looked like dark glass but felt warm under his hand. When he touched it, it responded, not with sound or light, but with feeling, calm, weight, choice. Elias sealed the chamber again and told no one. He understood enough to know that if the alien rulers learned of it, the colony would be stripped bare, and humans would suffer even more. So he stayed. Every few months, he returned to the chamber to make sure it slept. Each time it recognized him. Each time it waited. Lena never saw this side of him. To her, Elias was the man who refused to leave the colony, the man who said no when traders offered passage off-world. He always said the same thing, "Not yet." When Lena turned 16, she was offered a chance to leave, a training program in the inner systems. It was rare, almost impossible. Elias sold nearly everything he owned to secure the final fee. The night before she left, they argued. She stood in the doorway with her bag packed, her eyes burning. "You kept me here," she said. "You let them treat us like this. You never fought back." Elias tried to explain, but his words came out slow, heavy. "You don't understand," he said. She laughed, sharp and bitter. "You're not my father," she shouted. "You never were." Then she left. The door did not open again. Elias sat alone in the dark for a long time. The colony lights flickered outside. Somewhere deep below, the ancient structure pulsed once, faint but clear. For the first time, it felt something new. Loss. Days turned into years. Lena's messages stopped. Elias heard rumors only. She was smart. She was ruthless. She learned fast. Elias stayed where he was. The alien overseers increased patrols. New scanners appeared near the old mining zones. Something was changing. The ancient structure grew more active, its presence heavier in Elias's thoughts. One night, the ground trembled. Not an earthquake, but a warning. Elias returned to the chamber. The structure glowed faintly when he entered, patterns moving like slow water. It showed him images, not of power, but of consequences. Many species, many choices, many endings. Elias placed his hand on it.
"I'm still here," he said. Above the surface, far beyond the colony, something answered.
A signal moved through space, silent but strong, old as the stars. Elias did not know who would hear it. He only knew that the girl who once called him nothing would one day return to a world that was no longer small. And when that day came, the truth would no longer stay buried. Years had passed since Lena had left the frontier colony. The dusty plains and cracked buildings were still there. But Elias Ward had grown older. His hair had turned gray at the temples, and the lines on his face deepened with work and worry. Every day he went about his routines, repairing alien machinery, maintaining the colony's power systems, and keeping an eye on the old, secret chamber beneath the surface. He never stopped thinking about Lena. Lena had vanished into the inner systems, learning, growing, and building a reputation as someone sharp, clever, and unforgiving. Rumors reached the colony from traders and passing ships. She had become a strong figure in commerce, feared by some, admired by others. Elias only listened quietly, never acting on the news. He had learned long ago that humans were stronger when they found their own way. The ancient structure beneath the colony pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm. Elias visited it often, checking that it was stable. He touched the smooth, dark surface with careful hands. Each time it gave him a small warmth, a small confirmation that it still existed, still waiting. It was more than just a machine or a device. It had consciousness of some kind, and Elias could feel it judging the actions of the colony, the aliens, and himself. One day a trader arrived at the colony. His ship was small, patched with metal and old circuits, but it carried news that changed everything. There had been strange signals picked up from the outer reaches of human-controlled space. Ships had appeared without warning, and colonies reported seeing lights moving faster than anything they understood. Some claimed to have seen a figure standing at the edge of space, guiding ships through impossible routes. Most people dismissed it as rumors, but the trader insisted Elias should see the data. Elias examined the charts, the signals, and the strange patterns. They were not random. They matched the frequency of the structure beneath the colony. It had activated on its own. For the first time, Elias felt a mix of fear and hope. The artifact, the thing he had kept secret for so many years, had reached out. It was sending a signal, and something far away was receiving it. Meanwhile, Lena was making her way through the inner systems. She had changed. Her once youthful face now carried a look of determination and toughness. She had learned to negotiate with alien races, to manipulate markets, and to survive in the harsh world of interstellar politics. She remembered Elias occasionally, but only with frustration. The memories of her harsh upbringing, of being forced to stay in the colony, and of the words she had shouted at him still burned. She did not think of him as a father. She thought of him as an obstacle she had overcome. Back at the colony, Elias continued his work. He met with other engineers, helped repair life support systems, and occasionally checked the outer boundaries of the settlement for signs of alien patrols. The alien rulers had changed over the years, but their disdain for humans remained. They viewed the colony as unimportant, a place to send unwanted laborers, and they allowed it to crumble slowly. Elias had little contact with them unless required, and he had learned to keep his head down while subtly resisting when he could. One evening, a tremor shook the ground beneath the colony. It was subtle at first, a faint vibration that rattled the walls. Then it grew stronger, enough to make the dust clouds swirl violently. Elias ran toward the hidden chamber beneath the surface. When he reached the entrance, he felt the artifact pulsing more strongly than ever. It was alive in a way that made the hair on his arms stand on end. Inside, the dark surface glowed, faintly. Shapes moved beneath it, patterns that seemed almost like a map of the stars. Elias placed his hand on the artifact. He could feel it, thinking, not in words, but in images and sensations. It showed him ships traveling faster than anything humans could normally manage. It showed colonies and stations that would soon be in danger. It showed Lena, standing on a platform in a massive city, making choices that would ripple across space. Elias understood the message. The artifact had sent a signal beyond the galaxy, reaching someone, or something, that would come looking. It had chosen him, and now it had chosen others as well. The stakes were higher than they had ever been. Meanwhile, Lena received a strange transmission in her private communication channels. It was brief, almost silent, a pulse she could feel more than hear. The pattern matched the strange calculations she had been studying in recent months. Something had reached out to her, something old and intelligent. She did not know what it was, but she felt a mix of curiosity and unease. She decided to investigate, tracing the signal back to its origin, which led her to the outer rim of human space. Elias continued preparing the colony. He reinforced walls, repaired power conduits, and ensured the hidden chamber remained undisturbed. He knew that when the signal reached the wrong eyes, humans would be in danger. He could not allow the alien authorities to seize the artifact. He could only hope Lena would return and understand what he had done. He did not expect her gratitude. He did not even expect recognition. He had only hoped she would survive and find her own way. Days passed, and the signal from the artifact grew stronger. The alien patrols began noticing anomalies in the colony's readings. Ships started moving closer, scanning the area with advanced instruments. Elias prepared quietly, moving parts and machinery to shield the artifact. He knew the aliens would not understand what they were looking for, but they would destroy anything that got in their way. Lena traveled quickly, moving through systems she once dreamed about as a child. She thought of Elias only occasionally, always with anger or resentment. Yet the artifact's signal tugged at something deep inside her. It was a mystery she could not ignore. She had grown used to solving problems, navigating complex political and economic situations, but this was different. This was something alive, something old, something that had waited for humans for centuries. When she finally reached the outer rim of the frontier systems, she saw the colony from orbit. It had changed little, but it was stronger than before, with walls reinforced and small energy grids humming softly. She noticed movement, a figure walking near the landing field. It was a man, older now, with gray in his hair. For a moment, she did not recognize him. Then she felt it, a faint pull of connection she could not name. Elias noticed the approaching ship and understood immediately who it was. He had not expected her return so soon. Yet, he felt a small spark of hope. The artifact pulsed once more, stronger than ever, as if acknowledging her presence. Elias prepared to meet Lena, knowing that the reunion would not be simple, and that the anger she had carried for years would not vanish easily. The colony held its breath, though none of its inhabitants knew it. Outside, stars glimmered, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the frontier, something ancient and intelligent moved closer, drawn by the signal. The artifact waited silently, its purpose yet unknown, but certain to change the lives of both Elias and Lena forever. The years of separation, the anger, and the harsh frontier life had all led to this moment. Elias knew that soon the choices made by humans, both young and old, would test not only their courage, but also the future of humanity itself. And far away, Lena was about to discover a truth she had never imagined, a truth that would challenge everything she thought she knew about the man she once called nothing. Lena's ship glided silently through the atmosphere of the frontier colony. The landing field had grown over with dust and small plants, but the reinforced walls and faint lights told her this place was still alive. She had changed a lot since she had left this colony. Once, she had been a scared girl, angry and weak, fighting to survive. Now, she was confident, capable, and determined. She had made a name for herself in the inner systems, built alliances, and acquired wealth that could rival some small governments. Yet, something about this place drew her, a faint pulse, a rhythm she could feel, even from her ship. She stepped onto the cracked metal of the landing platform. The wind carried dust in small waves, and the air smelled faintly of fuel and old metal. Her eyes scanned the familiar landscape, noting the changes, the improvements, the repairs. Someone had worked hard here. Someone had stayed. Elias Ward stood at the edge of the landing field, his back slightly bent from age, his gray hair catching the weak sunlight. He had been expecting her, though he did not know exactly when she would return. He had kept watch for months, quietly preparing for her arrival, preparing for the moment he might have to protect her from herself. The alien authorities were still nearby, watching, but the colony had grown cautious under his care. Lena noticed him immediately. The man who had raised her, who she had once hated, was standing there exactly as she remembered, only older. For a moment, she froze, the anger she had carried for years mixing with confusion. He did not move toward her at first. He simply watched, his eyes holding something she could not yet name. When she finally spoke, her voice was sharp.
"You stayed here?" Elias nodded slowly. "I stayed."
"For the colony. For you." Lena shook her head. She had believed he had held her back, kept her small, but now she could see the work he had done, the repairs, the defenses, the quiet preparations. It was clear he had not stayed idle.
Why? She demanded.
Why would you stay in a place like this? There was so much out there for us, and you stayed behind. Elias's expression was calm, though his eyes held a weight she had never noticed.
Because someone had to.
And because you needed to learn your own strength, you left and you became stronger than I ever imagined. Lena's eyes narrowed. She had heard words like this before, but they had never felt true. She had survived on her own, faced dangers and challenges, and built her life from nothing. Could this man who had stayed in dust and cold understand what it meant to live in the wider galaxy? She did not think so. They walked slowly toward the colony. The streets were narrow and dusty, lined with buildings patched from old metal and alien technology. Humans moved through the streets quiet and alert, many stopping to look at Lena as if they had heard of her arrival. Elias introduced her to a few of the older workers, people she remembered from her childhood, though most had changed with time. They nodded to her quietly, some with respect, others with caution. As they walked, Elias explained what had happened while she was gone. He told her about the increased alien patrols, about the strange signals that had appeared, and about the artifact beneath the colony. Lena listened carefully, feeling the weight of the truth. She realized that Elias had not been idle, that he had worked tirelessly to protect the colony and the secret he had discovered. The artifact had remained hidden, and he had ensured that it would continue to stay safe. Lena could feel the pulse of the artifact now, a low vibration that seemed to travel through the ground and up through her feet. She had studied similar devices in her travels, but this one was different. It was alive in a way that no human or alien technology should be. Elias had kept it secret for a reason, and now that reason was becoming clear. Someone or something had noticed it from far away, and the signals were growing stronger every day. Night fell over the colony, bringing a calm that was unusual for this place. Stars glimmered above, distant and cold, while the colony itself remained small and quiet. Elias led Lena to the hidden chamber beneath the colony. He had sealed it carefully, using locks and shields that only someone with his knowledge could operate. The entrance was still there, waiting. Lena looked at the dark surface inside the chamber. It pulsed gently, faintly, as if breathing. She reached out, unsure if she should touch it. The moment her fingers brushed the smooth material, she felt a rush of energy and thought. Images appeared in her mind, not in words, but in patterns and feelings. She saw ships moving faster than anything she had known, colonies in danger, and distant signals responding to the pulse. The artifact had reached out, and it had chosen her, too. Elias watched silently. He had expected this moment. He had hoped that Lena would understand, that she would realize why he had stayed behind, why he had endured the hardships of the colony. Now she felt the weight of the responsibility that had been hidden from her for so long. Lena stepped back, breathing heavily. This is why you stayed? All these years? Elias nodded.
Yes.
I stayed to protect this, to protect humanity's future. I could not leave it unguarded, and I hoped that one day you would see it for yourself and understand. Lena felt a mixture of awe and fear. The artifact was alive, ancient, and powerful beyond anything she had imagined, and it had waited for humans to prove themselves worthy. Elias had already proven that he could handle it, and now it was testing her. She had survived and grown strong, but could she rise to the challenge the artifact demanded? Before she could answer, a warning alarm sounded. The alien patrols had detected anomalies in the colony's energy readings. Ships appeared in the sky, scanning the surface. Elias grabbed Lena's arm, pulling her back toward the walls. They moved quickly, using hidden paths and old tunnels. The aliens would not understand the artifact, but they would destroy anything in their way. Lena's mind raced. She had faced many dangers before, but this was different. This was something ancient, something alive, and now it had chosen her. She felt the pulse of the artifact in her chest, guiding her movements and giving her a sense of direction. She realized that her anger from years ago had been misplaced. Elias had not kept her small. He had prepared her, in his own way, for this very moment. The aliens landed near the colony gates, scanning with bright lights and loud warnings. Elias and Lena stayed hidden, moving carefully through the narrow streets and maintenance tunnels. Lena felt a surge of admiration for the man who had kept this place safe for so long. He had stayed behind, not because he was weak, but because he had strength and wisdom that most humans could not understand. They reached the central part of the colony, where the artifact pulsed strongest. Elias explained that the signals had begun to reach far into the galaxy, drawing attention from distant civilizations. If the aliens discovered the artifact, it could bring disaster not only to the colony, but to all of humanity. Lena felt the gravity of the situation. This was bigger than she had imagined. The choices she made now would determine the future of humans in space. Elias looked at her, his face serious. "I cannot do this alone anymore. You have grown strong. You understand more than I could teach in words. The time has come for you to decide what to do." Lena nodded slowly. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, but also a sense of purpose she had never felt before. She realized that this was why she had returned. She had been drawn back not by anger or resentment, but by the call of something greater than herself. The artifact had chosen her, as it had chosen Elias, to shape the future. The alien patrols moved closer, their lights cutting through the night. Elias and Lena prepared to defend the colony and the secret below. The artifact pulsed stronger, as if sensing their determination and readiness. Lena took a deep breath, feeling the energy flow through her. She was no longer the angry girl who had shouted words of hate at Elias. She was someone new, someone ready to face the unknown. Together, they moved toward the chamber. The ground trembled slightly under their feet, the artifact's presence growing more powerful. Elias gave her a small nod, a gesture of trust and understanding. Lena returned the nod, knowing that they would face whatever came together. The aliens would not succeed in taking the colony. The artifact would remain protected, and humanity would have a chance to prove its worth. Outside, the stars glimmered coldly, distant and vast. But inside the colony, a pulse of life and purpose grew stronger. Elias and Lena stood side by side, ready to face the challenges ahead. The past, with its anger and resentment, had shaped them both. Now the future awaited, uncertain and dangerous, but full of possibility. The artifact pulsed once more, acknowledging the presence of both humans. The time of waiting was over. The test had begun, and the fate of many would depend on the courage and wisdom of those who had returned to the frontier to face the unknown together. The artifact's pulse had grown stronger over the past days, sending waves of energy through the colony. Elias Ward and Lena worked quietly, moving among the tunnels and maintenance halls, reinforcing structures and preparing systems. The alien patrols above had grown more aggressive, scanning the colony for unusual readings. Elias had learned to anticipate their movements, guiding Lena through secret passages and hidden corridors. They were ready to protect what had been kept secret for so long. Lena had begun to understand the purpose of the artifact. It was not simply a machine or a weapon. It was a test, something left behind by a species that no longer existed, designed to judge those who came after. Elias had passed the test years ago by choosing restraint and sacrifice over power and greed. Now, it had reached out to her. The energy she felt was more than a signal. It was a challenge, an invitation to prove that humanity was capable of more than survival and selfishness. The first sign of trouble came just before dawn. Sensors in the colony's outer perimeter detected unusual activity. Alien ships, larger and more advanced than before, moved into position around the colony. They were scanning, probing, searching for anything out of place. Elias and Lena watched from the hidden tunnels, feeling the tension rise with each passing moment. "You have to understand," Elias said, his voice low. "This is bigger than us. They do not just want the artifact. They want control over what it represents. They will not stop until they have it." Lena nodded. She had faced enemies before, but never like this. The power and intelligence of the alien forces were beyond anything she had encountered. Yet she felt a strange calm. The artifact's pulse guided her, giving her insight and direction. She understood now why Elias had stayed behind, why he had endured years of hardship. He had been preparing for this moment, for the arrival of forces that could threaten not only the colony, but humanity itself. The aliens began to land small squads near the colony gates. Their movements were precise, controlled, and intimidating. Elias and Lena moved through the tunnels, setting up defensive positions and monitoring energy flows. They were ready for the confrontation, but neither knew exactly what form it would take. The artifact pulsed in response to the approaching threat, sending subtle waves that hinted at the presence of intelligence and power, far beyond human understanding. As the first squads entered the colony, alarms rang out. Humans inside the colony scattered, hiding where they could. Elias and Lena moved swiftly, using knowledge of secret passages and hidden corridors to avoid detection. The aliens were thorough, scanning every corner, but the artifact's energy shield created areas they could not penetrate. It was as if the artifact itself was protecting them, guiding their movements, and giving them an advantage. Lena paused in a small chamber, catching her breath. She had grown strong and capable, but the scale of the threat was overwhelming. She looked at Elias, seeing not only the man who had raised her, but the one who had prepared her for this. "Why did you never tell me about this?" she asked, her voice tense. Elias shook his head. "Some truths are too heavy for the young. I had to keep you safe until you could understand. You have grown strong, Lena. Now, you can help decide what happens next." The artifact pulsed more strongly, as if acknowledging her understanding. Images and sensations flooded her mind. She saw ships, colonies, and distant systems, all connected by the energy of the artifact. She understood that its purpose was not only to protect humanity, but to test whether humans could rise above fear and selfishness. Elias had passed the test through patience and sacrifice. Now, it was her turn. The first confrontation occurred near the central energy hub of the colony. Alien squads moved in, scanning, analyzing, ready to strike. Elias and Lena positioned themselves strategically, using hidden entrances and energy shields to control the battlefield. The artifact's pulse grew stronger, sending waves of energy that disrupted alien sensors and created confusion. Lena took the lead, moving with precision and calm. She used her knowledge of tactics and strategy, learned from years in the inner systems, to guide the human defenders. The aliens were formidable, but they were not prepared for the combination of human ingenuity and the artifact's power. Each move she made was calculated, each decision measured. She realized now why Elias had stayed behind, why he had endured years of hardship. He had been preparing for this, training her mind as much as her body, teaching her patience and understanding. Hours passed, the conflict ebbing and flowing. The aliens tested the colony, probing for weaknesses, but Elias and Lena anticipated each move. The artifact pulsed continuously, a silent observer and guide. Humans began to hold their ground, repelling the first waves of attack. Lena felt a strange sense of connection with Elias, a recognition that despite the anger and resentment of the past, they were united in purpose. As the day turned to night, the aliens withdrew temporarily, regrouping and reassessing. Elias and Lena took stock of their resources, repairing energy shields and reinforcing structures. The artifact pulsed gently, as if encouraging them to prepare for the next phase. Lena understood now that this was only the beginning. The artifact had set in motion a series of events that would test humanity in ways they could not yet fully understand. During the quiet moments, Elias spoke softly. "You have grown into someone remarkable, Lena. I kept you close to the colony, knowing you would need strength and patience. Now, you have both." Lena looked at him, her anger from years ago fading into understanding. "I never realized," she said. "I thought you were holding me back, but you were preparing me all along." Elias nodded. "And now we face the consequences together." The night passed with tension, the alien forces still nearby, the artifact pulsing beneath the surface. Lena and Elias worked side by side, using every skill and piece of knowledge they had to protect the colony. The humans, inspired by their leadership, fought with courage and determination. They understood that their survival depended not only on strength but on unity, intelligence, and the guidance of the artifact. As dawn approached, a new signal reached the colony, stronger and more focused than before. It came from deep within the galaxy, a response to the artifact's pulse. Lena felt it in her mind, a wave of energy and understanding. Someone, or something, had answered. The artifact had drawn attention from a distant civilization, one that could either be ally or enemy. The choice was now in human hands. Elias and Lena stood together, watching the horizon. The alien patrols had not returned yet, but the sense of anticipation was palpable. The artifact pulsed steadily, waiting, testing, guiding. Lena understood now that her anger and resentment had been replaced by purpose. She was no longer the girl who had shouted words of hate. She was a leader, ready to face challenges that would determine not only the fate of the colony, but the future of humanity. The first test had ended, but the real challenge was only beginning. The artifact had chosen humans for a reason, and the responsibility now rested on Lena and Elias to guide humanity through what was to come. Outside the colony, the stars glimmered coldly, distant and vast. Inside, the pulse of the artifact grew stronger, a silent force that would shape the destiny of those who would return to the frontier and face the unknown together. The air in the colony felt heavier than usual, charged with energy from the artifact beneath the surface. Elias Ward and Lena moved cautiously through the tunnels, checking equipment and monitoring the energy flow. The artifact pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm, sending waves of power that touched every corner of the colony. It was alive, aware, and waiting. The alien forces had returned, larger this time, their ships hovering in formation above the colony. Sensors picked up their movements, precise and threatening. They had learned from the first confrontation and were determined to take control of the artifact. Elias and Lena knew that direct conflict would be dangerous, but retreat was not an option. The artifact could not fall into the wrong hands. Lena looked at Elias. "We cannot hold them off forever," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held determination. "We need a plan that will change the game, not just react to them." Elias nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. The artifact gives us more than defense. It can guide us, show us possibilities. We just need to understand it fully and use it wisely. They reached the central chamber where the artifact rested. Its surface glowed faintly, patterns moving like ripples in water. Lena placed her hand on it, feeling the pulse more strongly than ever. Images and sensations filled her mind. Distant systems, alien fleets, human colonies at risk, and choices that could change everything. She understood now that the artifact was testing humanity, not only for strength, but for wisdom and responsibility. Elias joined her, placing his hand beside hers. Together, they felt the full energy of the artifact. It showed them a vision of the alien forces above, their tactics, their weaknesses, and the potential outcomes of every action they might take. Lena realized that the artifact did not just give knowledge, it demanded careful, thoughtful decisions. Acting recklessly would bring disaster. They devised a plan. Instead of meeting the alien forces head-on, they would use the artifact to disrupt their systems, create confusion, and force them into retreat. It was risky, but it was the only way to protect the colony and the artifact. Lena coordinated the human defenders, assigning positions and strategies, while Elias managed the energy flows and shield systems. They worked as one, their actions guided by the artifact's subtle pulses. The first wave of aliens entered the colony. Their sensors searched for anomalies, their weapons ready. Lena moved swiftly among the defenders, guiding them with precision. She anticipated the alien moves, predicting their strategy, and adjusting human defenses in real time. The artifact pulsed in response, enhancing their abilities, creating shields, and sending signals that disrupted alien sensors. The humans fought with courage and intelligence. They had never faced enemies like this before, but they were led by two humans who had been tested by life itself. Lena's tactical mind, combined with Elias's experience and the artifact's guidance, made them formidable. They held the aliens at bay, forcing them to retreat from key positions. Hours passed in tension and struggle. The colony's energy systems flickered and hummed under the strain, but the artifact sustained them. Elias felt his strength waning, the effort taking a toll on him. The artifact's energy was immense, and it drew from him as well as guiding them. He knew he could not continue at this pace for long, but he had prepared Lena for this moment. She understood the stakes, the responsibilities, and the sacrifices required. During a brief pause in the conflict, Lena looked at Elias. His face was pale, but his eyes held determination. "You cannot do this alone anymore," she said. "Let me take the lead." Elias nodded. He had hoped she would understand her own strength. "The choice is yours," he said. "Use it wisely." Lena placed her hands fully on the artifact, feeling its immense power flow through her. She focused on strategy, guiding the humans, and creating shields that pushed the aliens back. The energy was overwhelming, but she drew on years of training, experience, and understanding. The artifact responded, amplifying her abilities, showing her the paths that would protect the colony and prevent unnecessary destruction. The alien forces attempted to regroup, but Lena anticipated their moves. She directed human units to create traps, block key pathways, and exploit weaknesses in alien tactics. The artifact pulsed, reinforcing shields, sending subtle signals that caused confusion among the attackers. The humans, inspired by Lena's leadership and Elias's quiet guidance, fought with renewed courage. They began to push the aliens back, slowly reclaiming control of the colony. Elias felt his life force weakening from the strain. The artifact demanded energy to sustain the shields and guide the humans, and he had given much of his own. He could feel his strength diminishing, his body tiring beyond recovery. Yet he did not falter. He knew Lena could continue the fight, and he trusted her to make the right decisions. He focused on supporting her, providing guidance, and ensuring the artifact remained protected. As night fell, the alien forces began to retreat. Their attacks became less coordinated, their ships pulled back into the darkness, and their signals grew weaker. The colony had held, thanks to human ingenuity, courage, and the artifact's power. Elias and Lena stood together in the central chamber, exhausted but victorious. The artifact pulsed softly, as if acknowledging their efforts and determination. Lena looked at Elias, understanding the depth of his sacrifice. He had given so much, not for power or recognition, but to protect the colony, the artifact, and humanity's potential. She realized now that his patience, guidance, and wisdom had shaped her into someone capable of facing this challenge. She felt gratitude, respect, and a renewed sense of purpose. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything."
I understand now. You were never just my guardian.
"You were preparing me for this." Elias smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and weariness in his expression. "You were ready, Lena. You have the strength and wisdom to guide humanity. I only hope you use it well." The artifact pulsed once more, stronger and brighter than before. It had responded to their actions, acknowledging their decisions, their courage, and their unity. The test had progressed, and humanity had proven its potential. Yet Elias knew that this was only the beginning. The artifact's influence extended far beyond the colony, and the choices Lena would make in the future could shape the destiny of humans across the galaxy. Elias's body weakened further. He had given so much to protect the colony and the artifact that he could no longer sustain the energy required. He collapsed quietly, exhausted but at peace. Lena caught him, supporting his weight, feeling the depth of his sacrifice. She understood that his life force had been part of the artifact's power, a hidden cost of the protection he had provided. Lena knelt beside him, placing her hands on the artifact, feeling its pulse and energy. She understood now that the true power of the artifact was not in domination or control, but in the choices made by those who wielded it. Elias had chosen wisely, with patience, sacrifice, and understanding. Lena would carry that lesson forward, guiding humanity with the wisdom he had instilled in her. Outside the colony, the stars glimmered in the cold darkness of space. The alien forces had withdrawn, for now, but the threat remained. The artifact had drawn attention, and distant civilizations had noticed its presence. Lena knew that the future held challenges, conflicts, and choices that would test humanity's strength and character. Yet she felt ready, strengthened by the guidance and sacrifice of Elias, and the lessons learned through the years. The colony, once small and forgotten, now stood as a symbol of resilience, courage, and potential. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and survived, not through brute force alone, but through intelligence, unity, and the guidance of something greater than themselves. Lena understood that the journey was far from over, but she also knew that humanity had the potential to rise, to prove its worth, and to shape its destiny among the stars. With Elias resting peacefully, Lena stood and looked at the artifact. She felt a deep connection, a sense of responsibility, and the weight of the future. She would protect the colony, guide humanity, and honor the sacrifices of those who had come before. The artifact had chosen them, tested them, and shown them the path. Now it was up to Lena to walk it, with courage, wisdom, and the determination to ensure that humanity would not only survive, but thrive. Years had passed since the final conflict at the colony. Lena had grown into a leader respected across multiple systems. The frontier colony, once a forgotten outpost on the edge of human space, had become a beacon of hope and resilience. Humans now controlled parts of the outer systems, no longer subjected to alien domination. Thanks to the guidance of the artifact and the sacrifices of Elias Ward, Lena often returned to the colony not just as a leader but as someone who felt a deep personal connection to the land and people who had shaped her. The colony had grown stronger under her oversight, its walls reinforced, its energy grids advanced, and its people thriving. Children played among the metal structures, and humans worked side by side, no longer fearing oppression but building a future with purpose. She walked through the streets she had known as a child. The familiar dust and metal panels now felt alive with progress. The older humans who had worked with Elias nodded in recognition. Some remembered her as a child, the girl who had shouted words of anger at the man who raised her. Now she was someone they admired and trusted. Lena made her way to the central chamber where the artifact rested. Its pulse was steady, not as urgent as it had been during the conflicts, but still alive with quiet energy. She felt it in her chest, a reminder of the responsibility it represented. Humans had been tested and had passed, but the artifact continued to watch, to guide, and to prepare for what was still to come. Elias Ward had passed quietly years ago, his final moments spent ensuring the colony and the artifact remained protected. He had never sought recognition or reward, only the safety of humanity and the hope that Lena would carry forward what he had started. Lena knelt by the artifact, feeling its energy, and remembered his words. "You have the strength and wisdom to guide humanity. I only hope you use it well." She understood now the depth of his sacrifice. Elias had given his life to protect not just the colony but the future of humans across space. The choices he had made, the patience he had shown, and the guidance he had provided had shaped her into the leader she had become. She whispered a silent promise to him, a vow to honor his legacy. The colony's people had grown strong under Lena's guidance. They had learned to operate independently, defend themselves, and build new systems. Education had improved, and trade with other human colonies had flourished. Lena had ensured that no human would again be left powerless or exploited by outside forces. The artifact's energy continued to assist, subtle yet powerful, guiding systems and maintaining security. Outside the colony, humanity's influence had expanded. Other frontier worlds had been liberated. Small fleets under Lena's leadership had formed to protect human interests, and the galaxy had begun to recognize humans as capable, intelligent, and formidable. Lena had become a symbol, not of conquest, but of resilience, unity, and the potential of humans to rise above adversity. Despite the victories and advancements, Lena remained humble. She often walked the colony's streets, spoke with the people, and ensured that decisions were made with fairness and wisdom. She knew the weight of the artifact's presence, the sacrifices of those who had come before, and the responsibility she carried. Elias's lessons were never far from her mind. One day she stood before a monument in the colony's center. It bore the name Elias Ward, a simple tribute to the man who had given everything for the colony and for her. People gathered around quietly, paying their respects. Lena placed a hand on the monument and spoke softly, repeating words that had guided her since childhood. "You have shown me the way. I am here because of you."
The artifact pulsed faintly beneath the ground, as if acknowledging her tribute.
Lena felt a wave of energy and understanding. Humans had proven their worth, but the artifact remained a guide, a teacher, and a silent observer. It reminded her that vigilance, wisdom, and unity were eternal responsibilities. As she looked out across the colony, children playing, workers repairing buildings, and the community thriving, Lena understood that the future was now in their hands. The legacy of Elias Ward, the strength of the humans who had survived the frontier, and the guidance of the artifact had created a foundation for something greater. Humanity was no longer underestimated, no longer oppressed. They had proven that resilience, intelligence, and courage could shape destiny. Lena stood tall, feeling the pulse of the artifact in harmony with her own heartbeat. The colony was safe, the people thriving, and the galaxy watching. She knew that challenges would come again, threats would rise, and the artifact would continue to test them. But humanity had grown strong, and she had learned from the best. Her voice carried softly over the monument as she spoke again. I am here, and I will not fail. I will honor all who have given their strength, their life, and their wisdom. Humanity will rise, and it will never be forgotten. The stars above the frontier shimmered, distant but bright. The colony, once small and ignored, now stood as a testament to human courage and potential. Lena smiled, feeling the connection between past, present, and future. She had returned not just to show gratitude, but to carry forward the lessons, the sacrifices, and the hopes of all who had come before. In the quiet pulse of the artifact, she felt Elias's presence, not as a father, not as a guardian, but as a guide and teacher who had shaped her path. Lena knew that humanity's story was only beginning, and that the legacy of courage, wisdom, and resilience would continue across the stars, forever inspired by the man who had stayed behind and the girl who had returned to honor him.